series on this kind of process here recently on, I think, Hulu. I have not watched it, but
Are you going to?
I might now. I mean, I don't know I don't if there's no objectionable stuff in it. I might, but
But does it interest you that much?
it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm
But
just
to
being
educate
honest.
yourself, you might.
Yeah. There is a lot of ritual with these kinds of things because it is for the Catholic Church, it's a solemn responsibility to be prayerful and selecting. And then there's something. This is really sad because I did go to an all boys Catholic high school. Our Catholic listeners.
That's why I'm asking you these questions.
There is something in Vatican City. If they vote and select a new pope, there's white smoke,
right?
I think, and then if they cannot decide, I think it's black smoke. In other words, they're still in the process. But I don't even know if that process had already begun because Pope Francis had been sick for a while, and so I don't know whether there was considerations.
Wasn't he the first non-European pope?
In 1,300 years. I think it's been a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the first from Latin America.
He was.
But he was the first
Maybe that's what I meant.
non-European pope in 1,300 years.
So anyway, they'll have his funeral services, I guess, tomorrow. I don't know when.
Yeah, this is going to carry on for days.
Yeah, I mean, it's, what is it, 1.4, how many Catholics are there? 1.4 billion or something, I think.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Catholics, and you know, they'll be in mourning. I'm not sure how long that process goes on either.
Mm-hmm.
So,
of course, he replaced Pope Benedict the 16th, who stepped away from the position back in 2013 because of an illness.
And before that was John Paul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so not to. I'm going to talk in generalities about the Pope.
yes.
Okay, I guess generalities, perception, and his thoughts and ideas. I'm talking about the Pope that just passed away, Francis. Okay, there were a lot of Catholics who did not like him for his politics. I remember one of my friends expressed displeasure with the Pope, who was Catholic. The fellow was Catholic. I thought
The Pope was the.
No.
Are you asking if the Pope's Catholic?
No, that's a trivia question. Is the Pope Catholic? That's my trivia question today. No, what I'm saying is there are a lot of traditional Catholics, I guess you could say, who did not like his politics because his politics were very, very liberal in many ways. Talking about the Pope.
Yeah, you know, to me, this is proof that your faith does intersect with politics because Pope Francis, in general, I think, had a more, what we might consider a more liberal interpretation of Scripture, which led to his more liberal political views on things like immigration and other hot-button topics, controversial topics in the news. So to me, this is proof that you can't escape your faith or your non-faith if you're an atheist in how you interpret and decide.
You know what
on
I didn't like?
issues.
The Pope Francis, Pope Francis was the fellow who just passed away,
Yes,
the church
yes.
leader of the Roman Catholic Church. He was critical of the United States of America, especially President Trump, for his immigration policies. That is, not allowing everybody to come here, right, who wants to come here to the United States. And I thought, well, you're not letting everybody into Vatican City to set up makeshift camps.
Right.
And believe me, there are a lot of people who are coming in from North Africa in particular and the Middle East, coming into Italy, so much so it was a crisis for a while, and may still be, I'm not sure. They were coming in from land and sea. And I didn't ever see Vatican City, who is a sovereign nation, by the way.
Right.
They weren't welcoming everybody in to their museums and their, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was a bit hypocritical, it seemed to me. It's easy from afar to say, okay, United States, you need to take everybody in from around the world because they're immigrants, and you need to be compassionate. That's the Christian thing to do.
Right.
Ignoring the Christian compassionate thing to do is also to have law and order
Right.
and protect people, protect our citizens. But it just seemed like Pope Francis, was forever critical of the United States in our attempt to control our borders.
Yeah.
I say forever. He criticized often the idea of denying immigrants, entry into America without due for law process.
And this is why people considered his views as being on the left side of the political and religious spectrum, because those who say what Pope Francis said about things like immigration will point to certain scriptures in the Bible, whereas those who will say, well, the government has to protect its people and those kinds of things, uphold the laws, they'll look at passages like Romans 13, and that's generally viewed as being on the conservative side of the political spectrum. So, we're not being unfair to the Pope. He had his biblical arguments, and those who believe similarly to Pope Francis have their biblical arguments, but those are generally on the left side of. So these cardinals will hold what's called the conclave, and I think that was the name of the series I was trying to remember. I think it's just called Conclave, and so when they vote, I think the cardinals have to be under age 80 to be a part of the conclave. And
really, that's ageism.
Well, I think the reasoning there is that you got to have a stake in what's coming for the Catholic Church. I don't know. That's my guess. And then out of the Sistine Chapel, I think they burn the ballots after they count.
That's the reason for the smoke.
And then so there's white smoke release from the.
You don't want to get that wrong
Chapel.
either, do you?
No,
if you're the guy who has to put the ballots in, you don't want to mix them up.
You remember a few years ago for the Oscars? Remember someone read the wrong winner?
Oh, yeah.
And then they had to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake."
My bad.
Yeah, you don't want to get the thing wrong.
Yeah,
When
the whole world sees black smoke come out, and you're going, What?
Yes.
That's not what I meant.
All right, next story, Chris.
Well, let me mention this real quick. Related to this, the internet is already abuzz with who they think may be in line to replace Pope Francis. This is an AI compilation of various things.
Brad Pitt.
Oh, no. Brad Pitt's not on there.
No?
But reading from the list here, there's a guy named Pietro Parolin. He's apparently the current Vatican Secretary of the State. He's being seen as a moderate continuity candidate because he worked closely with Pope Francis. Then we get into some other people that would be the first in a long time. There is a gentleman by the name of Luis Antonio Tagli. He's the former Archbishop of Manila. He would be the first Asian pope. There's a black man by the name of Peter Turkson, who is supposedly in line. There's also a couple of American cardinals, Raymond Leo Burke and Sean Patrick O'Malley, that may be supposedly in line for Pope Francis' seat. We shall see.
Yeah. So for those who don't know or familiar with Catholic governance of their church, the cardinals are the let me just equate it this way. If you have a president of the United States, such as President Trump, and then you have then underneath him would be the governors of the 50 various states, right? So equate that to the Catholic Church. You have the you have the Pope, who is the president, as it were, and the cardinals are the governors. So does that make sense?
I think that's probably pretty close.
So they're the
advisors for the Pope,
right? And they're over various geographical areas. Like in the United States of America, we may have 5 or 6 cardinals that are over various areas of the country. In terms of the, it's very hierarchical.
I'll
let you go for that one.
It's hierarchical.
Structured.
Yeah, it's what Dad said right there. It's a church, so it's a very highly structured church.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll see what the cardinals do in terms of selecting a new Pope to lead the church.
And by the way, that makes sense because you have bishops over certain areas,
Right.
sometimes over
Right.
particular cities. And so if you got, 1.4 billion Catholics, you got to have some organization. Priests have to be able to go to their bishop and ask questions.
Right.
And
Then they go to the
bishops
archbishop, and then they go to the cardinal.
Yeah. So,
All right.
that does make sense if you have been in existence as long as the Catholic Church and have to oversee a religion as a part of the Christian faith that's as large and with as many people in it as the Catholic Church.
Next story, Chris.
All right, let's bring it back home to the United States of America, where there is a news story. This one is from Reuters, and their headline is this: Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth shared sensitive Yemen war plans in second signal chat. This is according to a, quote, source that told Reuters Secretary Hegseth shared details of a March attack on Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis in a message group that included Hegseth's wife, brother, and a personal lawyer. This is the second signal chat situation in which someone was given access to information on a private chat that included at least one member of the Trump administration. The issue here is Hegseth supposedly also included his wife, brother, and lawyer on this very personal private phone call. The White House weighed in on this morning on Fox and Friends, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt dismissed this story as a, quote, lie. Clip 12.
The president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. They are lying about the Secretary of Defense. Let me reiterate, no classified information was shared in these chats. But you do have leakers who are leaking classified information, which is a crime, I will add.
Okay, for those who don't know, because I didn't know before this happened 3 weeks ago, Signal, Signal, is a app that is used for private conversations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Kind of like WhatsApp?
Yes, but very secure, supposedly.
Yes.
Okay.
Encrypted.
So I don't know if this was a phone conversation. That's the way you said it.
It wasn't.
Chris.
It was a chat.
Like a group chat message.
Yeah, it wasn't
A group
wasn't
chat,
call.
I may have said
texting.
phone. Yes.
And so the accusation is that Secretary Hegseth included his wife and his brother-in-law?
His brother and his lawyer.
Lawyer in a chat having to do with the time, place for attacking the Houthis in Yemen with military force. U.S. and of course he's Secretary of Defense. That's what she's talking about. No, what did she call it? No classified information was. Anyway, I like Hegseth and Secretary Hegseth, and I know people who know him well, and they speak highly of him. So I don't know what to think about this. Is this a fake story, or is this something he shouldn't have done? I don't know. It remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know the answers to those questions either. And, of course, the White House is defending Secretary Hegseth. I will say that if this is true, I'm not sure how to solve this problem. I mean, you can't have – a lot of times you can't have phone calls where you're discussing sensitive information like military strikes on Yemen, because those can be intercepted. And so there's got to be secure ways to communicate. You just got to be careful about how you're doing it. I mean, we talked about this when the first Signal group chat issue developed. It's very easy to hit, reply all when you're emailing or when you are texting, because we all get busy and we're all going 50 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. And then you go, oh, I didn't mean to include that person in the long list. But you can't do that when you're talking about military strikes. So
also, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
related to this is the fact that in the last few days, there have been some people dismissed from Hegseth's inner circle. I'm talking about walked out of the Pentagon. with their cardboard box.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
You had, according to Fox News, top aides to Hegseth were placed on leave and escorted out of the building as the Pentagon probed unauthorized leaks. That's what she was talking about. That's what
Caroline Leavitt.
was talking about. Senior advisor Dan Caldwell, Deputy Chief of Staff Darren Selnick, and Colin Carroll, Chief of Staff to Deputy Secretary Stephen Feinberg. So on Friday evening, those 3 employees were fired. 2 defense officials confirmed to Fox News Digital. That's pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, that's
intentional. That's not accidental or even careless.
Right. They were fired. These were 3 high-level Pentagon positions people that would have surrounded Hegseth. So
to me, that's
I don't know if he hired those people or if they were there left over and from the previous administration. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if this is technically correct in terms of what people like this can be charged with, but that's not much different than spying. Now, it might not be they may not be leaking things to other countries, which is treasonous, but if you're leaking it to the news media or the Democratic Party, the political opponents, with the hopes that they are able to run with it and undermine Hegseth or President Trump, that's like spying in an official government position. And in the Department of Defense, that seems extremely serious to me. I don't know whether that rises to the level of treason. Probably not, but it is still like spying. If you're leaking things that your boss wouldn't want you to leak, you're spying for someone.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad they got fired if they were doing this, because it's not accidental and it's not careless.
Probably what you'll see, too, is some sort of news reports on like MSNBC or CNN quoting unnamed sources with knowledge of the situation at the Pentagon. Or maybe they'll bring in one of these individuals and do the whole voice disguise, let's shoot him in the dark so we don't know who's talking to us kind of thing. This won't be the last time we're talking about it, is what I'm trying to say. And it may not even be the last round of terminations. This could be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next story, Chris.
Well, I do want to bring this to people's attention because we need to be in prayer for our fellow Americans, especially in states like Texas and Oklahoma, where a slow-moving active storm system brought heavy rain, large hail, and tornadoes to parts of Texas and Oklahoma over the weekend. At least 3 people are dead. It could rise as authorities go through the damage in various places there. But bottom line, storms on Easter Sunday, you hate to see those kinds of things. And while we're praying for the president and all kinds of people in government, we need to be remembering those that have to deal with things like this after Easter.
Yeah. Well, springtime in the South, right?
Yeah.
And the Midwest, too. It's always going to be stormy because of the just the weather patterns. But, yeah, that's sad that that happened to those folks.
17 reported events Saturday of storms in just Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is, those people must be pretty hard.
They're living wrong. Is that what you're saying, Ed? I'm trying to help you there.
No,
you wanted to say it.
That's not what I was wanting to say. I was saying they're a hardy breed.
Because
they're like, don't they call that Tornado Alley?
Yes, and what's interesting is the southeastern U.S., Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, we've actually started to get more storms on average per year on an annual basis, however you want to say it, than places like Oklahoma or Kansas, Nebraska.
Arkansas gets hit a lot, Missouri.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of right through the middle of the country.
But Oklahoma's known for big tornadoes, too.
Right.
And the ground's relatively flat, so it just sits on the ground.
And I saw a movie once, Kansas.
Kansas, too.
They have tornadoes once.
You saw a movie once about that?
I saw a movie. There was this girl, and she was running. I can't remember the name of it.
You know, a lot of
running with her dog.
Yeah. It'll come to you.
Yeah.
It'll come to you in a minute.
There was a wizard. I don't remember exactly.
It was the Wiz.
Listen, tragedy is not funny.
You're right.
We don't mean to make light of that, but storms in You know, as long as there's springtime, there's going to be storms in Oklahoma and Kansas and the southeast because of the clash of the cold Canadian air.
Right, those Canadians.
Yeah, the Canadians.
Oh, they're cold.
And so, and then the Gulf moisture coming up from and then
the Gulf of
they
America.
meet in the middle, and it's ugly.
Yes.
It's ugly.
Gulf of America.
It comes up from the Gulf of America. It does. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
In the spring of 1972, actor George Sanders took a vacation in a resort area in Spain. At the time, Sanders was 65 years of age. He had what many people work for in life. He had fame and fortune, he had a good education, and he had good health for a person his age. Yet while on that vacation, George Sanders committed suicide. On a note which he left, he stated, "I am bored and have already lived enough." There are many people who feel that way. Life loses its meaning and they lose the desire to go on living. They're simply tired of living. It isn't hard for life to get that way, especially if one's purpose for life doesn't stretch beyond himself. We need to remember also that many share equally the lost zest for living which Sanders had, who do not commit physical suicide. There's a great truth running through the very fiber of life. That truth is this: the zest for living disappears when a purpose for living doesn't exist. One of the elementary rules for life to have meaning is for a person to find purpose in it all. For without purpose, nothing really matters. And that purpose, if it is to keep us going, must be above and beyond ourselves. The carpenter from Nazareth laid it out in a very simple way when he said, "The person who loses his life for my sake shall find it." When you have committed yourself to building a better world, to working for man's Creator, to helping the human race learn to love and help each other, then life is always worth living. Despite the opinion to the contrary, fame and fortune do not, of themselves, put purpose and meaning into life. Did you ever notice that very few poor people commit suicide? They have to keep going because someone else is depending on them. Lose your life in service to your fellow man. Give yourself over to making the world a better place. Follow the advice of that Galilean carpenter, and you will find life. You will find life with meaning and purpose, abundant life, life full of zest. The person who lives only for himself will one day become bored and grow tired of it all. Eventually, the meaning of existence will disappear. Then there will be no purpose to sustain a desire to press on. The person who loses his life for my sake shall find it. There's a world of truth in that statement. The person who heeds its truth will never lose the purpose for or meaning of life. The person who ignores it will often die years before he is buried. Lee Roston, writing in the Library Journal, had this to say: "The purpose of life is not to be happy, but to matter, to be productive, to be useful, to have it make some difference that you lived at all." A person striving to make the world a better place in which to live hasn't got time to become bored.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Chris, we hope you had a wonderful Easter weekend celebration. And just hope everybody, enjoyed the services yesterday.
Well, we had a great service at the church that my wife and I attend, Hope Church here in Tupelo. We have a great pastor, Scooter Noland. He serves on the board, AFA board of directors. The worship was just really, really great. We went to a Saturday night service. They asked some of our regulars to go.
Not only Catholics did that.
and
Evangelicals are doing that now?
That's funny you say that because, first of all, we had Saturday night because our pastor asked some of our regulars to go to the Saturday night to make room in the sanctuary for the influx of, once a year.
Christmas, Easter, Christians.
Yes. So we did that. We go on Saturday. But it's funny you say that because on the way, my wife said, well, isn't this what Catholics do? They go to Mass
Saturday night.
And I said, well, I guess that's true. But it's funny that she said the same thing. But anyway, it's wonderful service. I hope everybody.
We go to the same church you do, but
yes,
we paid no attention to the.
You didn't go on Saturday.
No, make room for visitors.
And technically, we should celebrate the resurrection any day of the week.
Yes, that's true. So,
yeah, we just went Sunday morning at 10:30.
Yeah, your regular time. You weren't going to be inconvenienced by those
visitors.
Did you have to move to a different pew? It was funny in our congregation. We had people that were sitting in like different parts of the sanctuary, but just because of the visitors and stuff that we had. So all of a sudden, these people that sit over like on my far left are now next to me.
They didn't know that was your place to sit, right?
Oh, I mean, it's fine, but it does throw you off a little bit.
I'm going to confess something here. I mean, we all know we can be petty. I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
I can be a petty Christian.
Yeah.
Okay. And when Brent's nodding, our producer, Brent Creeley, our former producer, Brent Creeley. But sometimes we have like a lot of people who are coming, and my wife and I have a spot where we sit normally, and I like being on the aisle. If I have to get up and go to use the restroom, I don't like climbing over a bunch of people.
I understand.
So I'm on the aisle. We get there so that we can sit. And then sometimes our pastor will say, okay, we have a lot of visitors this morning. Everybody scoot towards the middle. I just am openly defiant.
Right. That's not a good attitude. Yeah. But you
Scooter mentioned that to me one time in the hallway. What are we going to do about Brother Ed?
Yeah, well, I got here early enough.
So you have a specific place you sit?
Yes. That's right. Okay. It's kind of like
we have a little area.
Little area.
Yeah, a little corner area, but not like that seat right there. No,
we have a particular seat, and
you walk up, and if it's taken, you're
oh
just
my
gonna.
Goodness, it's back. Hey pal, you're gonna have to move.
Bless your heart.
Unless you want to go out to the parking lot.
That's a good greeting for church. I'm sure they'll come back. Hey pal.
Hey pal. Hey guy.
What are you doing?
So we used to in New England. It was always hey guy.
Hey guy.
Hey guy. But it's been a long time since
You want to move? You want to move it on down?
How about moving?
Yeah. All right.
Well, shame if something happened to your tires.
Say, what is your name on this pew? And then I think that's why they started putting names on pews back in the old days.
Back in the old days.
I'm serious. They started putting family names on pews.
I know.
The churches.
I know. I was a pastor for many years. Yeah. I know how this thing works.
I know. My pastor has shared the story, though, before about how it kind of throws him off. Like at the end of the service, you'll call on somebody to pray, like close us in prayer. And if some family has moved to like a different pew, like it throws the pastor off because he's used to, Blaine being over here. Yes. And all of a sudden he's on his complete opposite direction.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. All right, next story, Chris.
Well, we were mentioning this going into the break. I have an update, continuing coverage, if you will.
Okay.
But before the break, we were discussing this Reuters story that says Pentagon Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared sensitive Yemen war plans in a second signal chat. For those that didn't hear the story, the scuttlebutt with this particular issue is Mr. Hegseth may have...
that would be Secretary Hegseth.
Secretary Hegseth included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer in this Signal group chat, which...
He responded and we got it?
Yes. We do have audio of Secretary Hegseth himself.
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind.
I didn't know that Secretary was Hegseth was down at Mardi Gras. Did you? I don't know if that's appropriate or not to be walking in the Mardi Gras parade.
First of all, I was surprised. I thought he would have reached puberty by now, but I'm pretty sure his voice changed right there in the middle of that.
All right, let me just say this, okay, and then we'll move on here. That's funny, Ed.
I mean, did you guys hear
well,
it?
It's Pinocchio-esque. Yeah, it was. I agree. I don't know. He may have had something. Maybe he had a bad.
Someone bumped into him.
Bad coffee or something like. Yeah, somebody bumped into. Listen. Because I'm conservative,
yeah,
I want to believe what other conservatives say to be true.
Right.
That's my default position, and I think that's true of every human being. Whatever their political view is, they want to believe. The liberals wanted to believe Joe Biden was not losing his mind.
Right.
So they ignored evidence of the truth.
Yep.
So I don't want to do that either. However, I would say this. Did he say in that comments, did he say the story was not true? That he had a signal that included his wife and his brother. What you said? What, his brother-in-law?
His brother and lawyer.
Brother and lawyer in a signal trap talking about the attack on that was supposed to be private.
Mm-hmm.
Did he
No,
say
I
that?
don't think he was saying it was not true. I think what he was talking about is the leakers got fired.
Okay.
And then, now the media is coming out with hit pieces. In other words,
okay, I got you.
The media was talking to the people who got fired.
I got you.
And so he was questioning their motives.
All right. Well,
I do want to assign to Brent. I would like from now on, when I am speaking on the show, I would like some trumpets gently playing in the background.
Smooth.
I kind of like that sound. It just, you could say anything.
When the Saints go marching in. All right, next story.
All right, this very well could have been the lead.
Yeah.
But we had some other things to begin the show with, and we've updated our coverage on the Supreme Court and President Trump when it comes to deportations of illegal immigrants that are criminal gang members. The latest with this is the Supreme Court acted, quote, literally in the middle of the night and without sufficient explanation in blocking the Trump administration from deporting any Venezuelans held in northern Texas under an 18th century wartime law. Justice Samuel Alito wrote in a sharp dissent that castigated the 7-member majority. Over the weekend, the Supreme Court ruled that Trump couldn't do what he has been wanting to do here, and Justice Alito dissented to that, as well as Justice Clarence Thomas. We do have some audio on this, but I'll pause here. Any concerns that about what I just mentioned?
You talking about the Supreme Court ruling?
Yes.
I'm just gonna confess a little bit of ignorance here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to confess this. This story is starting to confuse me. Okay, in terms of who has what authority. Okay, it seems to me that the chief executive, the president, has the right to, under laws like this Alien Act, it's old, from the 1800s, to deport people who he considers to be part of an invasion. On the other hand, I do understand the concern with due process. I would hate for a person who is innocent of being in a gang to be transferred out and deported to an El Salvadoran gang. But it seems to me
You mean
that
prison, El Salvadoran prison? you mean?
yes.
Yeah.
It seems to me that this guy Garcia, is that his last name? That he was determined to be a member of MS-13. So I'm not quite sure why the Supreme Court and other courts, I guess some of those are activist judges, why they are making these kinds of rulings. To me, it's like the president. If President Trump told the Supreme Court, I am ordering you to reverse your ruling on this, the Supreme Court's going to go, no, that's not your job. You're not allowed to do it. And I'm thinking the Supreme Court doesn't have the right to do what it's telling the president to do.
What are they doing it in the name of? Was it 7-2?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a pretty good margin of 7-2.
But Alito and Thomas dissented, and I'll agree with Samuel Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas all day, every day on getting the Constitution right.
Yeah.
It's ironic that all three of Trump's Supreme Court justice appointments went with the majority.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ironic but not unexpected.
Right.
Because Judge Roberts, who's the Chief Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, well, I guess Brett Kavanaugh and Gorsuch.
That's what I'm saying.
This is I don't know what to make of this, but in my mind, if President Trump ordered the Supreme Court to change its ruling, all of us would go, you can't do that. And I'm thinking the Supreme Court doesn't have the authority to tell the president he can't execute the laws.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. This is confusing, this story and this whole deportation, the big story, and what can the president do and can he do, and what law is he authorizing be enforced, and so forth and so on. So 7-2, the Supreme Court, which I didn't know there was a hearing coming up before the Supreme Court.
Oh no, this was like a middle
en
of
banc
type
or what?
thing.
Not en banc. What do they call it? So this was done without a full hearing.
Yes,
this
sir.
was just an emergency ruling.
Yes, I'm going to post a couple of things from AFN.net on our Facebook page. The first one is about the decision, and it says the Supreme Court on Saturday blocked for now the deportations of any Venezuelans held in northern Texas under an 18th century wartime law. And it goes on to explain that Thomas and Alito.
They had to turn the buses around.
They did. And I'll share that, too, because Tim came across that story from
video footage.
Yes.
In Abilene, Texas, I think.
Yes.
They were getting ready to ship them out and put them on an airplane back to Venezuela, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Supreme Court order came down.
Because this is that Tren de Aragua gang, Venezuelan gang.
Yes.
In this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you, Ed. I don't know how the I would be interesting to. So this is not a Supreme Court decision
for all time.
This is just a temporary
For the time being.
Yeah, injunction, if you will.
I think part of the reason why it's confusing and nobody really knows the answer is because people drafting our Constitution in the late 1700s never envisioned this. They thought government was only going to be so big instead of this big, huge monolith that it is now. Nobody envisioned somebody in their late 80s would be in the House of Representatives or a senator. All these kinds of things. I'm not saying we need a new constitution because that would be the worst thing.
This is why people talk about activist judges, and it's not just on the Supreme Court. Other federal judges, you sit there and you go, well, it's not your job. It's not a part of the federal judiciary's job description to tell the president what he can and can't do unless it involves some violation of the Constitution. And we have separation of powers for a reason. This is why I say we would all think President Trump was nutso if he said to the Supreme Court, reverse your ruling. Well, that's not your job. The Supreme Court has its job, but the chief executive has his job. And for the court to be saying, no, you can't do that, to me seems to be breaking through on that separation of powers. This is very strange. And we mentioned in our story meeting, I don't know if you got the figures on this, I saw posts all weekend after the Supreme Court made its ruling talking about the amount of deportations that other presidents, including Democratic presidents, have made without judicial interference. It's like all of a sudden the judiciary is taking an interest in deportations that the executive makes under current law.
Yes.
And it's just very frustrating.
Hey, related to this, have you guys heard about this something called the Real ID?
Yes.
Yes.
I've been covering this for a while.
Okay, what is this?
All right,
Chris?
Real ID is something that involves post 9/11 legislation that was signed into law by then President George W. Bush. The idea being that it would put all the states would come up with the same kind of driver's license. And Real ID, once it takes effect next month, and I'll get into that in a minute, it's going to basically help take steps to ensure that people are who they say they are when they enter, when they try to fly or they enter a federal building. So this was post 9/11 legislation designed to protect people by helping cut down
Post
on
9/11. It's been like 20-something years ago.
Yes, they had
Is
to
this
basically.
under the Patriot Act, or is this a different act?
It's from that same era. I don't
Okay.
know that it's directly.
How come we're
connected
just
to-
not hearing about it?
Well, because they put states basically on a timetable. Hey, you got to get your ducks in a row and start doing this. There were some challenges and things like that. Now, Kristi Noem, who is now the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, put out a video in recent days saying, hey, Real ID is going to take effect on May 7th. You're not going to be able to board a flight or enter a federal facility without a Real ID. So,
Okay. So is my driver's license a Real ID?
does it have a gold star on the top?
I checked mine.
left or
Mine
right?
does.
Yeah.
Do you have your
Not on me.
on you?
Yeah.
It's if
It's
you
in
take
the car. You mean to go get it?
It's, if you pull out your driver's license, because I did this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been meaning to check it. I
This
pulled
is
mine
important
out,
because
Yes,
people
it is.
people have travel plans.
Yes.
Go ahead.
and I pulled it out, and in the upper, I'm pretty sure it was in the upper right-hand corner, there's a star, which means it is a Real ID.
Correct.
And I think they can. Is this, Chris, similar to like if I pull out a $20 bill, it has a little strip, an internal strip that validates this is a valid legal note, $20 bill.
It's similar to that, yes.
So this is something that cannot, under most circumstances, on the driver's license be fabricated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, there are groups, including one that's based in Minnesota called Citizens Council for Health Freedom, that disputes pushes from the government saying you have to have Real ID in order to board a flight because Twyla Brace, who heads up Citizens Council for Health Freedom, has forever told AFN that you could still board a flight with things like government-improved passports
Yes.
and things of that nature. It might take more of a headache for you to actually get on the flight. Their concern at Citizens Council for Health Freedom is that this could pave the way for like a China-like social credit type system where a future administration might require you to have Real ID for all kinds of other things. That's their concern.
And there's concern. Do these Real IDs have a chip in it, or is it just a mark on the ID that is like a watermark or something like that? Because here's if there is some sort of chip in your driver's license that allows the federal government to track you, okay, now then that becomes kind of problematic for most people. Although other people I've heard arguing about this say, well, they can track you by your phone.
They're already tracking.
They're already
Or they
tracking
can.
you. Yeah, or they can. They they track you when you use a debit card. This is a tough thing because the argument in favor of this is you can figure out who's here illegally. You can determine if somebody is faking being an American citizen or a Chinese national. So it's easier to find criminals. I understand all that. Okay. At the same time, as you said, Chris, what about another Biden administration who, not just him, but someone who is like him, who doesn't like Christians, who's hostile to conservative Christians? How they can track you, they know where you're at, then they come after you.
Right. That is the concern because every administration's actions could and will often be used as precedent for another administration to say, well, so-and-so did it, nobody cared.
Right.
There is some confusion over Real ID in the sense that, for example, last Friday, Fox News went hard and heavy with Real ID, and they quoted people like Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky, and even former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Thomas Massey was quoted as telling Fox, listen, if you thought Real ID was some sort of issue to ensure voter integrity, you're going to be sorely mistaken. Nobody has ever said that it's going to ensure you are who you say you are at the ballot box. This is the stated purpose for it from the government, is to ensure that somebody doesn't pretend to be somebody else to get on a flight and then try to take it over. But the concern is this can and will be used in the future by some other administration to require you to have this and this to be able to do all kinds of things beyond just flying.
So if I want to travel, I got a flight in June. I need to go out when the show's over and check my driver's license, see if I got a star.
When did you get your driver's license?
Have you gotten it renewed in the last couple of years?
When I was 15.
No. No, I mean, when did you? Chris asked the right question. When did you last renew your driver's license? Is it within the last several years?
I've got to renew it next year.
It's probably already compliant. Mississippi and a number of states have already moved towards Real ID compliance. Odds are it has a star at the top of it, a little gold star.
Okay.
Now, you can travel with a passport.
I do have a passport.
Yes. And that could work to prove who you are as well, because that has a photo. Your passport or passport book has at least one photo of you. Some passports now have a color and a black.
But the point is that a real ID, which is what the Christy Nome and others are talking about right now, a real ID is beyond just a driver's license. It's a driver's license with a star.
Yes.
Yes.
And you got to have that, or they're not going to let you on the airplane. That's what you're saying. And that's going to be traumatizing to people who go to the airport for their vacation this summer and can't get on the plane if they don't have this.
Very true.
And I think it's scannable. Okay, that star or something in the driver's license can be scanned. In other words, you can't go down and talk to Billy, who's behind the KFC, and get a fake ID.
For example,
I wonder if this is in part to counteract the blue states who are giving driver's license to illegal aliens. You know that?
Well,
some of the blue states are giving driver's license to people who are here illegally.
I don't know if they're giving real IDs or not. That's a good question. If they're giving real IDs, that's problematic.
Yeah. We have been airing a story today on AFN. I know radio-wise, we've aired a couple of real ID stories already. Once that posts on afn.net, I'll share it on the Today's Issues Facebook page. It is a big story, and you're going to be hearing more about it between now and May 7th, because that's the day it's set to go into effect.
And we're just talking a couple of weeks away.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's been I've been here almost 15 years now. I've been covering Real ID for at least 10 years here, and the concerns over it.
That's just, that's one of the stories I've missed. I just haven't.
I'm the same.
Have you been? Yeah.
Well,
I wasn't paying attention.
And see, that's to Tim's point. People are going to show up at Reagan National Airport or wherever going, I've never heard of this. What do you mean I got to have a star on my license?
Yeah.
Chris has been living this alone. With this, he's been
bearing his burden.
He's had this story for how many years have you been covering it?
I would probably say 10 years. I've been doing interviews on this and the concerns over it since
here we are.
Obama was.
And yet Ed and I evidently have had our heads in the sand.
It's a tough place to.
Like the proverbial pelican.
The pelican with its head in the sand.
Is it the pelican?
No, I'm pretty sure it's the ostrich.
Yeah.
That's
that
what you meant.
That one, yeah. Uh-huh.
Now that pelican might identify as an ostrich, which is
by the way,
another story.
We're coming up here on a break, but tell our listeners you mentioned AFN.
Yes.
That's what does that stand for, and how do why do we do this? How do people get tied into that?
Thank you very much. AFN stands for American Family News. The great thing about AFN is that it's radio and print news. So if you like to get your news audibly, listen to us at the top of every hour on American Family Radio and about 100 non-AFR stations that now air our radio newscasts. Sure. You can also find those stories and a whole bunch more on afn.net for the print version of all that information.
Chris, if someone wanted to go back and read your archived stories of the last 10 years about the Real ID, where can they do that?
Yeah, you can go to afn.net and type in Real ID in the search box at the top of the page, and you'll find all that information.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm doing it right now. Real ID.
I'm going to go to my car
here at AFN.
Some information will appear. We've updated our website a few times.
See if my driver's license has got a star on it or not. So if I got a star, I'm good. If I don't, I'm going to be denied entry. And,
You could probably face an uphill battle
yeah,
to get on the plane.
and I do have a passport, though. All right.
Okay, here's stories.
That's what you want to. Hey,
Yeah.
I'd read them all. I'd just take a few hours and read them all. We'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues after this short break for news. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Abraham Hamilton III.
If you really want to see the tides turning in our country, can I challenge you and encourage you? If the Lord could grab a hold of us in our family, you would see the tide in our politics turn.
The Hamilton Quarter, weekday afternoons at 5 Central on American Family Radio.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The Supreme Court issuing an order halting some of President Trump's deportation flights. David Spunt reports.
The order came down from the Supreme Court at 1 o'clock Saturday morning. Highly unusual for this court, but it shows you the importance of the issue. This is a temporary defeat for the Trump administration. The 7-2 emergency order blocks the administration's use of that Alien Enemies Act to deport suspected Venezuelan gang members from Texas to El Salvador, at least for now. The court ruled that while deportations may continue across the country, due process, meaning a hearing in front of a judge to contest the arrest, must take place. Now, the order aims to stop what happened in March when immigration officials put illegal immigrants on planes, suspected gang members, I may add, without any court hearings.
Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, in his dissent, criticized the court for making the ruling, quote, literally in the middle of the night. This is law professor and Fox News legal consultant Jonathan Turley.
You get a sense of the frustration that a number of the members of the court are experiencing with this torrent of emergency appeals. And what Justice Alito is saying is, you know, we need to get back to regular order because these cases are coming to us without a record. We don't know what the position of lower courts are. It's basically an improvisational type of filing. And Alito is basically saying, I'm having enough of this.
Meanwhile, some Democrats are making it their latest cause to get an illegal alien gang member returned to the U.S. The media has stated repeatedly that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was, quote, mistakenly or wrongly deported. But White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says,
we did not make a mistake. We have always maintained that this was an individual who needed to be deported from our country. The president swore to the American public he was going to deport illegal criminals, and especially those who have been involved in violent gangs like MS-13 that have terrorized American communities. And so to the Democrat Party, who thinks that they are going to bring this foreign terrorist back to the United States of America to live a peaceful and happy life, that is never going to happen.
Police outside Dallas say a local elected official was stabbed along with her husband, who died from his injuries. And the suspect is their grandson.
Police in Louisville, Texas, northwest of Dallas, say Denton County Commissioner Bobby Mitchell and her husband Fred were found stabbed. Fred Mitchell died from the stab wounds, and Mitchell herself remains hospitalized. Police already have a suspect in custody who they say is the Mitchell's own 23-year-old grandson. They have yet to say why Mitchell Blake Reinecker would have harmed his grandparents. He's now charged with murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Eben Brown, Fox News.
A national security analyst is concerned that the left is fully energized right now. While she is concerned, there is apathy on the right.
Recently, nearly 7,500 packed an arena in Missoula, Montana, to attend a Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders Fighting Oligarchy rally. He was accompanied by New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They criticized the influence of billionaires in U.S. politics and cuts to federal agencies and programs made by President Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Montana was just one of several red states being targeted by the well-funded and well-organized campaign. Brigitte Gabriel is founder and chairman of Act for America and the best-selling author of Rise.
The left right now is so activated, and the apathy on the right is heartbreaking. It's frightening. The grassroots on the left are organizing in such a massive way right now that we on the right need to understand that just because we elected President Trump does not mean we can all go to sleep right now and President Trump is going to fix everything.
And Gabrielle says 2026 is right around the corner.
We're worried about the upcoming midterm election. The left is organizing while the right is now already asleep with apathy. If we don't wake up right now and keep the same passion, the same engagement, the same level of volunteerism with your local political group, whether it's the Tea Party, the Republican Party, the MAGA parties, if you volunteered during the election or before the election, continue volunteering now, because it's going to be a fight in 1 year.
I'm Chad Groening.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
Their mission statement says the Global Methodist Church exists to make disciples of Jesus Christ and spread scriptural holiness across the globe. Dr. Andy Miller III says those two words, scriptural and holiness, kept Wesley Biblical Seminary out of the United Methodist Church. Now they are the exact things that have set us up to serve the Global Methodist Church. You can read the article No Compromise by Matthew White on thestand.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to this program and American Family Radio throughout the day. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Battagliano, and Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us now. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
So, Steve, what was the highlight of your day yesterday?
I was down, my wife and I went down to her home church, her former church before we moved to Smithville, in Columbus, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And Fairview Baptist Church had the 40th anniversary of what they call Living Pictures, which is basically the Easter drama. It's the Passion. And for 40 years in a row, they've aired this story. And every year it's focused a little different. You know, it's the music is updated and changed. And it was simply astounding this year. So good.
You mean as part of the church service for Easter or outside as a
Friday? No, it's not Sunday morning Easter. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They had 3 performances in the evening.
Oh, like a cantata?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Drama. They have Jesus on a cross.
Drama, like a passion play.
It is.
I got you. It's
yeah.
40th year in a row they've had the passion play.
Yes, but not the same play. They rewrite it every year.
No, I got you. Yeah. That's, yeah. Okay.
Usually Jesus is crucified in all of them, though. It's just
right. They tell the real story of Easter. It's just different characters and different storylines. I got you.
Not doing a spoiler for
wow.
All right. You can't change that, you know.
No, not for Easter.
No.
Yeah. So, Steve, what is your first story you want to bring forth?
Let me just say in passing right now, our Dow Jones is down more than 1,000 points.
I didn't need to know that.
I'm sorry.
Did you need to know that?
I did.
That was unnecessary.
No, but I'm starting to expect when Steve comes in, we're going to get some.
Are you going to tell us when it's up, Steve?
I'm sure I will. I don't think it's going to happen during our last half hour.
This is a don't shoot the messenger.
That's right.
So the Dow Jones,
NVIDIA is leading the charge, and they're chip.
I would just say, first of all, I never heard of a man named Dow, but the Jones family. They just have a lot of ups and downs. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
They do.
They just, I don't know what you would call that. Would you call that bipolar? Or
his cousin is Van Jones, I think.
Van Jones?
On CNN sometimes.
Anyway, so Dow Jones is down right now.
Jones?
He's in the blue. He's having the blues.
Tom Jones.
Maybe he'll rally this afternoon and get a new attitude.
We will see.
Yeah, because people's stocks are down.
Also, just in passing, Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, resigned suddenly. Now, he's 87 years old, so it's not like, it's
time. It's time for him to resign if he's 87.
Yeah. But
he's a World Economic Forum guy.
World Economic Forum is the genesis of so much misery in the world. The globalists all meet. This is the group that meets in Davos every year.
Oh, yeah.
And Schwab is the ringleader, one of the ringleaders.
I don't know who's going to get to replace him. But so you guys are talking.
Could it be Satan?
An SNL take. I love it.
Yeah.
Could it be? All right, sorry, that was uncalled
No,
for.
it's church lady.
Church lady.
Yep.
Yep.
So you guys, we talked. I talked about our Easter cantata. How did you guys observe Easter, celebrate Easter this year? Anything interesting?
Yes, I mean,
I went fishing. It was,
oh, Tim.
no, you know.
First
you
of
can-
all,
you can
don't go
commune,
fishing,
you
do
can
you?
commu- you
You
can
don't.
commune in nature, right? You can get back. That's what I've always heard from people who don't go to church.
Yeah, you
I
can
get
you can commune with God.
No,
in nature,
no.
but you're not going to be told to stop sinning when
Unless-
you're out with
When
your
you
dog.
get a large
Jesus,
a largemouth bass is not talking, is not giving you any instruction in life.
Unless Jesus
I'm
walks up-
only kidding. I did not go fishing,
You went to church.
and I went to church.
it'll work if Jesus walks up on you and recruits you. I mean,
If you're a
Peter,
fisherman?
Peter and John were
Okay.
fishermen.
I don't think
Yeah.
you heard the last hour.
Yeah.
Tim actually confessed on air.
Yeah,
Because
did.
I mentioned that my wife and I went Saturday night because the previous Sundays
Yeah.
our pastor had said,
Right.
if you're a regular attendee on a Sunday, please consider going on Saturday night. So we have room. We have a lot of visitors who come
Yeah,
on
right.
Easter Sunday.
Right.
And Tim, right here on the air, said, I didn't listen to what the pastor said.
No.
We went during our regular time.
Right. Well, look.
I'm assuming he preached to like our passion play.
I'm
on
just
the-
not interested in giving my seat to a Christmas Easter Christian.
That's
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, huh?
maybe.
Maybe I'm wrong.
We call them CEO Christians. Christmas and
yes.
Easter only.
Yep.
Well, Brent, when did you go? You go to the same church we do. It's
I went yesterday at 10:30 or 10:30
the
service.
same thing we did.
Same thing.
Right.
Ignored the
I thought-
pastor.
Ignored the pastor.
Right. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't qualify it as ignoring. I just think that you have to work things out for your own benefit.
That's what church is all about.
Yeah, sure that right. Well, I
That's
asked
the
for
message.
a reason.
Isn't that the message?
In the Message Bible, maybe.
All
I
right.
did ask for a reason because I want to share with you
All right.
how our favorite magazine, Christianity Today,
Yeah.
celebrated Easter
All right.
with an article that says, "Was Jesus crucified with nails?" The Bible doesn't say Jesus was nailed to a cross. No. This, what they call an evangelical Bible scholar, Jeffrey Arroyo Garcia, not the same Garcia, but maybe he deserves to be in the same place as the other Garcia, said that they only talk about hanging on a cross, so maybe there were ropes. That's seriously what he says. And he's looked for archaeological evidence of nails. He hasn't found them. And I agree. It might be because don't you remember when Jesus said to Thomas, "Feel the rope burns on my hand"?
The rope burns.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve.
Listen, this guy's wrong on a number of levels, including descriptions of crucifixion from historians. I'm talking about 2,000 years ago. They in detail describe the process of crucifixion, and ropes were sometimes used to help keep the body in place, the arms strapped, for example, but nails were used. And then biblically, like you're talking about, Jesus had the disciples put their fingers in the nail prints. I'm not sure what this quote-unquote evangelical
I don't either. But I just
scholars
thought
talk about.
and
Christianity Today ran this, no big surprise.
That's what I was kind of why I brought it in.
That-
what has
that's
happened
a,
to that?
Yeah, that's a sad story, but it's a very human story. When you have an institution for very long, a lot of times they leave their first love, and that can be in any sphere. But Christian institutions do the same thing. They leave their first love, lose their first love, and they compromise on their founding mission. This is why I am grateful for those who say, what's the deal with all the Wildmans working up there? Well, you know what? This is how you prevent mission creep, and this is how you prevent the founding mission and vision of an organization like American Family Association and American Family Radio from getting sidetracked. Look, all you have to do is look. I don't know why I'm so passionate about this.
Oh,
some call it wound up.
Yes, look at Walmart. Look at something as non-spiritual as Walmart. The founders' children, and I don't know if grandchildren are in the mix, and in some areas, Walmart has started to go woke. Okay, and Sam Walton would never have done that. And Christianity Today is one of those institutions.
Billy Graham started that
magazine. Yeah. So
They
they've gone woke, and this is why, by the way, that I am happy to say that that Riley, Wesley, and Walker Wildman are not only solid, they are outstanding Christians who love AFA, who remember their grandfather, and who are dedicated to keeping the vision and the mission alive.
Amen.
It's got nothing to do with the fact that they've got the same last name. These are people who can carry on the fight after Tim is retired and fishing on Sundays. So
I switched from fishing. I don't fish anymore.
You golf?
Golf.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do. It's still hunting. I hunt birdies.
There you go.
You hunt birdies and eagles.
It's kind of hunting.
Yeah.
But anyway, we all have our things we do to to chill out. You watch the Boston Bruins.
I watch some hockey.
What do you do when there's no hope left for the season for your hockey?
I watch other teams.
Just the sport itself?
Yeah. I watched a couple of playoff games this weekend.
Yeah.
But there is a deep sadness in my heart, Tim, because my team is not in it.
I understand. But there's, hope springs eternal.
It does.
Because there's a new season.
Wait till next year.
Wait till next year. That's our motto. Steve, what do you do to relax and chill out?
Well, as far as sports go, I like watching NASCAR. I think
you're a
covered
NASCAR
that.
guy.
And it's interesting because I became a NASCAR fan, back in the 90s at some point when Jeff Gordon was a young driver when he was
way back
first starting. Of course, he raced and he's retired for many years now, and so he's not there. It's interesting. You start becoming a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
And now I don't really have a favorite driver. I have a whole lot that I really like that are really good drivers, but I don't have this guy that I really am excited if they win. It's a fun sport to watch. I know people say turning left. It is really it's deep. It's got a lot of stuff.
I also like working out in the yard. I know this is very interesting to our listeners. I like working out in the yard, and of course spending time with my grandkids, and of course attending to my wife's every need. Okay, so that gives me enjoyment.
I'm looking up for the lightning at this point.
I do writing on the side and a little bit of artwork, and so blah blah blah. Nobody wants to hear that.
No, we do really.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next story, Steve.
All right. The Department of Defense has upgraded its guidance on the process to reinstate service members who left the military because of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
Many of our military personnel did not want to have that vaccine, and of course, the previous administration was there was no choice. You either took the vaccine and all its unintended consequences, or you're kicked out. So they have reinstated it. But I've got Breitbart has a op-ed. I guess it's an opinion piece, but it's a fact piece by John Frankman, who says we need to understand they're allowing these service members to return. But he says, we should take a look at, compare them with how the transgender issue is dealt with, because the transgender soldiers who were let go because they couldn't, if you voluntarily resigned when the thing went out that said you couldn't be transgender in the military, the Department of Defense, is going to give you 2 full years of separation pay. Okay? On the contrary, on the other hand, if you were a soldier who voluntarily separated because of the COVID vaccine, you will get back pay and time credited to the service, but you have to agree to 4 additional years of service, or 2 if you're eligible for retirement within 2 years. and the back pay is subtracted from anything the service member made between when they were kicked out and when they returned to service. So if you got a job bagging groceries and you made $50,000 or whatever, then they've taken the $50,000 out of your back pay.
This is just wrong on a number of levels. First of all, I like your point, your comparison to the way transgendered members of the military were treated. To me, and now, by the way, your back pay and all that you're talking about, that is, you get that only if you re-enlist and serve more?
4 more years.
That's wrong. If you were wrongly terminated or forced out of the military, you should not have to re-enlist unless you want to be given your position back. You should be paid back pay for the years that of service that you were denied. There should be some compensation because some of these people, I'm sure most of them, have moved on. They've got other careers going. Yeah. They can't say, oh, well, okay, I'll quit the job I'm doing now and go back into the military. This is just wrong. I hope Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will correct this and make it right for those who were forced out.
You might just be included in one of his signal chats, and maybe you can talk to him about that.
Okay, I'll say, hey, what's up with those who were removed for vaccines? And they say, who is this? I don't know. You just included me in your chat.
All right. President Trump signed an executive order a while back. I'm trying to get the date, but it makes English the official language of the United States. And what the president said, that the order was added as an official language and is intended to promote unity and cultivate a shared American culture for all citizens while ensuring consistency in government operations.
I like this. I think it's been a long time coming. And for those, and I've seen kind of man on the street interviews, and I understand the concerns. This is still a very diverse population. It still can be and is probably, I think, a melting pot. None of those things change the fact that what this law does, and tell me if I'm wrong, Steve, is it
I'm
makes
here too.
and Tim,
I want to participate. That's all right.
That for official purposes, like going into government offices, all business is to be conducted in English. Now, maybe maybe you have some parallel. I don't know what the law says, where there may be some Spanish, so people who don't know how to speak English. But let me just give you talk about when I was growing up. Now, my dad's side of the family, the Italian side, they came over, I think, the late 1800s from Italy. My mom's side of the family, they came over after World War II from Greece. Okay, they all came over. They learned how to speak English. The kids were all taught how to speak English so they could function in a Greek-speaking society. But in order to honor diversity, which is what a lot of people who disagree with this policy are talking about, when I went to visit my Greek grandmother and my cousins in Lowell, Massachusetts, a lot of Greek immigrants were in Lowell, Massachusetts, north of Boston. When I went to see my grandmother, you know how grandparents are. They give the grandkids a few bucks. We would walk down the street to a corner store, and it was owned. It was just Greeks everywhere in this part of Lowell. You heard Greek everywhere. The signs on the store where we went, all in Greek. Okay, and I could hear out of windows the local Greek station playing music. Nobody cared. Nobody cared that Greeks, But when I went in the store, guess what? The store owners could speak English.
Yeah.
And the little English kid, the English-speaking kids, half Italian, half Greek, could tell them what we wanted. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a way in which cultures assimilate. They join together in enclaves within big cities so they can conduct business, but then they begin the process of assimilating, and English is a great way to assimilate.
I think one of the problems we're seeing, and it's a big problem, is the non-assimilation. We got all of these migrants that are coming in, not just Hispanic, but Muslim, and a lot of them. Now, many of them do assimilate and learn English and start American lives, but a lot of them are not. And especially we're seeing in states like Minnesota where the Muslims come in and they set up their own little town.
And they want to practice Sharia law. Tim, I'm sorry. I'm cutting you out of this conversation.
Well, what are we talking about here? And I'll be glad to comment on it. We're talking about I've been listening
English
to everything
being
you've said.
Official language of the country.
Well, English is de facto and has been forever, the quote official language of the United States. But I think we are bilingual now, and I don't think we're going back. Nor I don't. I think 30. I mean, that's a high percentage of Americans that speak Spanish, but a lot of those who speak Spanish also speak English, and I think people who come here and they from Hispanic countries who speak Spanish, they also learn English. A lot of them, they don't. They're only hurting themselves.
Yeah.
Because English is the dominant language still. But now most places you call some company on the phone. The first thing you're going to get is for Espanol, you know, punch 1. For English, punch 2. You know, so they can get.
And there's nothing in this order that would prevent that. It's not private business. It is government functions.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
180 out of 195 countries across the world have official language.
Yeah, I know.
And it is said that it unites us. There's only so many things as Americans that we have to unite us. The Constitution and the ideal of democracy and Americanism being the first. But we're different races. We're different
people who come here from around the world. People who come here from around the world to participate in the American experience. They know they got to learn English if they want to do business, do commerce, have a chance at a better life. They have to learn English. That's why you're even, that's
that's right.
The Greeks and the Italians came over here. The Germans came over here. The French came over here. Whatever. The Indians, the Vietnamese. Everybody who comes here knows they got to learn English. They're not going to make money.
I think that's stopped, though. I think there's a lot of communities that are.
Well, they're only hurting themselves, as my mom used to say.
Yeah, maybe.
Huh? Or your dad used to say. So remember, you've always heard that. You're only
and
you're only hurting yourself.
My dad would say, "You're only hurting yourself, and then after you do it, I'm going to hurt you." So,
bada boom.
Yeah.
Bada boom. All right, next story, Steve. We got about 2 minutes. 3 minutes left, Steve. Anything good?
Oh, we could.
Hey, by the way, excuse me.
Yes.
Did you guys see this story out of Florida with these alligators ringing the doorbell?
Yes,
I saw that.
I saw that. Yeah.
Well, then I'm not.
No.
I'm not making this up.
No.
And it was a big alligator.
Too.
They came to get. Search the story. It's worth looking at. There's these 2 big alligators, and they come up to somebody's house, and one of them rings the doorbell.
Yeah.
And the Ring camera caught it, or whatever camera was outside. Well, one of them, they flashed a sign, "Can Fido come out and play?" So I don't know how you take that. It seems like that's kind of a mixed message.
Do you guys remember the Saturday Night Live sketch, The Land Shark?
Oh, yes. That's back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s, in the original cast. And
that's after Jaws, after the movie Jaws came out.
Knock on the door, and it was like, Land Shark, we're not going to open the door for you. Jehovah's Witnesses, we're not going to open the door.
You're that land shark.
Candygram, come on in.
And that was after the movie Jaws came out with the giant shark.
But I'm not kidding. One of the alligators, and it's funny to me that they came in a pair. Like they're coming they look like they're coming to the door with a purpose.
Trick or treat.
Yeah. Can Fido come out and play?
Come out and play.
And one of them's leaning up against the door.
And that was a big alligator.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, alligators, they don't play. You get near one.
Hey, there's
you're
1,000 things that I like about Florida. But I could do
without the alligators.
Alligators. All right. Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
Well, I did go on a Everglades boat tour to look at alligators, so I did do that much. But that was from the boat.
That's how horror movies start. I'm just telling you, you go,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
let's just go on a fun little excursion. And then it runs out of gas, and all of a sudden there's 4 people who got to make it back to land alive.
How about the man?
Thank you.
How about the man who looked at his door cam and saw those alligators?
Yeah.
Come here, honey. You're not going to believe this. What? All right. See you tomorrow, everybody. Take care.